See, you know what? Because I heard the click stop and I thought you stopped.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Lucas and you're watching Fine Tuning. I don't do a lot of pedal demos anymore because I'm kind of set in my ways about pedals and I sort of have like a few things that I like and I kind of just stick to those. Not too long ago, my friend Jeff hooked me up with this pedal and I was just so kind of taken aback by it that not only did I want to show it to you, but also I kind of wanted to build like a whole separate pedal board around it just because I just think this pedal is so interesting and cool. So of course we're talking about the Origin Effects RevivalDRIVE. So a couple of things right out of the gate here. I don't usually like distortion pedals. Overdrive pedals I like, tube screamers and stuff, but distortion pedals where you get all of the gain from the pedal and you run it into the front of a clean amp, I usually don't like those because I like the sound of amp distortion. I like a preamp that has a built-in sound, and there's just something about that sound that usually I find that pedals cannot fully reproduce. However, this pedal is so much like an amp that it just blows my mind. Like, this is not even in the same ballpark as any other amp-in-a-box pedal I've ever used. And I've owned many, and I still own several. I have never heard a pedal do anything quite the way that this does it. It is so authentic. And I mean that it includes all the kind of trashy, nasty bits that come with those amps too, which is kind of the personality of those amps. Now, the RevivalDRIVE has like an insane amount of tweakability so that you can use this in all kinds of different formats. You can use it into different kinds of preamps, like a Fender-style preamp or a Marshall-style preamp, or you can run it into a power amp. There's all kinds of tweakability controls and stuff on it, so it would be difficult for me to show you all of the things that this does. And there are a lot of great videos that show you all of the things that this does. I'm just going to show you how I have been liking to use it and kind of the way that I built my pedal board around it here. So on the floor, we have a very simplistic pedal setup. Basically, I'm just going from the guitar straight into this 535Q wah pedal. And then from that, we're going into the Wampler Ego mini compressor, the Snark tuner, then this Pedal Pond Texan Twang, which is like a treble booster, the Dunlop Phase 90, and then from that into the RevivalDRIVE. And then from the RevivalDRIVE, we go into the Corona Chorus and the mini flashback, both by TC Electronic. And then from that, we go to the front of my Fender Blues Deluxe, which is a 40-watt 1x12 all-tube combo. I'll throw up a picture. I have that mic'd up in my kind of vocal isolation booth right now with a Shure SM57 and a Lewitt DTTP 340. That's really hard to say. And it's got a Jensen speaker in it, a 100-watt Jensen speaker. And I've got it set really clean, like loud and clean. It's at like 2 on the master volume, which if you have a Hot Rod or a Blues Deluxe, you know is quite loud. Now, if we go back to the board, the RevivalDRIVE has 2 sides. It has an orange side and a silver side. And the orange side is the valve rectified side, which is a little more saggy feeling, a little squishier and softer. But otherwise, the control set is the same. And then the silicon side is silicon rectifiers. And that would be kind of like a tighter, more punchy, a little bit more top-end kind of Marshall type, you know, or higher headroom type amp. So the orange side, I have kind of dialed in like an overdriven blackface type, like a sort of a Texas blues type sound, which is a sound I really, really like. And then the other side, I have dialed for kind of like a classic Marshall super lead sound. So first, like Andy says, here is the bypass tone. That makes me indescribably happy. I'm just going to switch over to the silicon rectifier side. And this is kind of more of a Marshall super lead type sound. So I'm going to go to my bridge pickup. And again, here's clean. And then here's with the pedal on. Again, there is that characteristic of those old non-master volume Marshalls. It's got a little bit of a compression on the front end that's different than the blackface, and it's kind of almost a little fuzzy sometimes, but there's a real searing kind of just shredded top end, and it's kind of a messy sound, but it's a very authentic messy sound. And it just, that kind of ugly stuff like that, I call it ugly stuff, the little trashy sounds, when you put that in the context of a mix with the band and the other instruments, it just makes it like so three-dimensional and interesting. And when it's not there, you kind of miss it. But there's more. In particular, if you have this 2-button foot switch, and Jeff was nice enough to provide me with a foot switch as well. So the foot switch has 2 functions. It has the mid-engage and the blend override. So let's deal with the blend override first. So I'm going to go back over to my kind of blackfacey sound, and I'm going to go back to my neck pickup and kind of do that Texas blues kind of Stevie sound. So just a reminder, that sounds like this. That's a pretty gained up sound in terms of like blackface. That's pretty hot. And there's some times where you might want some, but not quite that much, which you can of course do by rolling your volume knob down. But this pedal gives you this blend control on both channels. You have a blend control. And what it allows you to do is just blend in some of the dry signal in a parallel way with the driven signal. You hear that clean punching through there? And often I think that can be a little jarring when you're playing it by yourself. But when you're playing again in the context of a mix or with the band, I often find that that helps it be a little more clear. Again, that just makes me so happy. It just sounds great. I'm going to go over to the silicon side now. We're going to turn that blend override off, or on. So this is the full Marshall super lead kind of sound. If I only had that sound for the rest of my life, I'd be fine. That'd be okay. Now, if we turn that blend override off, you're going to get that kind of mixed thing again, but it's going to sound a little more pokey here. The reason it sounds more pokey there is because the humbucker is hotter than the single coils. So what that's doing is pushing a little bit more of that clean blend through. Now, I could adjust that on the control there, but if I did that, then it would mess up the neck and middle pickup sounds, because then they would be too soft. So what I found actually works really cool here is to use a compressor. So if I turn on my Ego comp, that's making a bunch of noise here because there's gain stacking, but also it's because I'm sitting right next to my computer and like a ring light and stuff. So the other feature of this pedal that I haven't talked about yet is the other button on the foot switch is the mid engage. And this is basically just it's a simple mid boost. It's a control that gives you the amount of mid that you can, or the amount of boost that you can dial in. And it's a post EQ, post gain stage boost. So it's at the end of the chain. So it's just giving you a frequency boost, and there's a variable kind of parametric control that you can choose what area, what frequency of mid-range to boost. So if I just kick on my mid-range boost here, so let's try that same thing if we just go over to the silicon kind of Marshall-y sound. It's kind of like the sound guy just grabbed the mid-range fader or the mid-range knob and just turned it up for a solo. You guys need to realize how much I like this that I haven't turned on the delay yet. So I'm gonna give you my honest opinion, my hot take on this pedal. I don't think this pedal could be any better. It is exactly what it should be, not a bit more and not a bit less. There's enough controls on here that you can dial in to get the sound of the pedal into whatever rig that you want, but there's not so many controls that are specific that you can get a bad sound, if that makes sense. I like those extra foot switchable features. That's really, really cool. It's very well thought through. This whole design is very well thought through. You can tell that somebody really likes these old amps and has dedicated a lot of time to getting that sound out of this pedal. I hear some of you naysayers in the comments saying, but it's so pricey, it's so expensive. You are looking at it the wrong way. You are looking at this as if it were a pedal, like a distortion pedal, which it, I guess, technically is. But what you really need to do is look at this as a vintage amplifier. And if you compare this, price-wise, to any vintage amplifier, this is way cheaper. I would be totally willing to put this side by side with a 100-watt super lead or an old super reverb or something, and I think this would perform very admirably right next to it. It's so good that like when I'm playing it, I forget that I'm not playing one of those amps, even though I can look over there in the booth through my window and I can see it's a little Blues Deluxe, which is just a, you know, kind of normal, everybody has one of those kind of amps. But it sounds way better than that. It's like I'm playing through some really nice boutique amp or a real vintage amp. Go check one of these out if you have the ability to check one out in person, because I think you'll be really surprised. But even then, if you're not sure about it, you know, I would take a chance, man. I don't know how you would be disappointed with this pedal. If you like those kind of amp sounds, I don't think you could get a pedal that does anything closer than this. This is a masterpiece. Like, what a pedal. I like it so much that I built this whole rig a few days ago just to work around using this pedal, and now I'm looking for excuses to like do some other musical projects where I can use this kind of more old school sound instead of using my more modern rig with all the extra switching and everything, because this just sounds so good. I'm having such a good time with it. It's just that blackface sound by itself is amazing. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed me rambling on and gushing about how awesome I think this pedal is, and until next time, I'll catch you later.